Hello, Seagulls. It's Thursday, April 22nd, and I am Eli Modlin, SU's Chief of Staff, sitting in for President Wight while he's attending the inauguration of Dr. Darryll J. Pines as the 34th President of the University of Maryland College Park today. Congratulations, Dr. Pines. SU's weekly COVID-19 positivity rate remains below 1% as we continue to conduct nearly 1,000 tests per day. All Americans aged 16 and older remain eligible to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, and we strongly encourage all students and employees to do so as we look toward a more robust return to campus this summer and fall. The Maryland Department of Health and the Wicomico County Health Department continue to offer vaccination clinics daily at the Wicomico Youth Civic Center and the former Tuesday Morning Store at the center at Salisbury. These clinics are open to all SU students and employees, including those from out of state. However, please know that if you receive your first dose of the vaccine in Salisbury, you will need to return to the same site 3 to 4 weeks later for the second dose. Pre-registration is encouraged. Another important tool in helping SU return to some sense of normalcy next fall is the COVID-19 Information Consent Form, which allows the university to know what percentage of its population has been vaccinated. This information is important as SU continues to use this data as guidance as to when the campus may move toward more normal operations. Thank you to the more than 5,000 students and employees who have already completed the consent form. For those of you who have not, please visit the link on your screen to do so. Regular SU COVID-19 testing continues through Friday, May 14th, and testing will continue this summer and next fall, though there may be a change in frequency if SU's average positivity rate continues to stay low and vaccination rates increase. Please watch your SU email for details in the coming weeks. As temperatures continue to rise, many of us likely will want to spend more time together enjoying springtime activities. While the warmer weather will allow us to enjoy the outdoors, where we can better practice social distancing, please continue to be mindful of SU's COVID-19 protocols to ensure we continue to keep the campus community as safe as possible. Today, we are joined by Dr. Mark Frana, Professor of Biological Sciences in SU's Richard A. Henson School of Science and a member of the university's health team, who will provide insight about the COVID-19 virus, its variants, and what may be next. Dr. Frana, thank you for being here with us today.
Well, Eli, thanks for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to talk about the vaccines and the variants.
So we've received a lot of questions, and I think you're the best person on this campus to answer them. Can you talk first about the impact that the pause in the J&J vaccine will have on SU's campus community?
Well, the pause in the J&J has had really no effect on the SU community. We know that SU has offered some clinics for vaccination, and they have exclusively used both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine and have not used the J&J vaccine. First immunizations were given with the Pfizer and Moderna, and follow-up vaccinations have been scheduled, but none of those involve the J&J vaccine.
And the clotting that was identified in those few cases, is that a cause for concern?
Well, there was some concern, and that's why the FDA and the CDC put a pause on using the J&J vaccine. They're currently investigating what the possible causes of that are. I will remind people that the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine use a different methodology in the production of the vaccine versus the J&J vaccine. And so these clotting events, which they don't completely understand yet, are associated with J&J, but I do remind you that those clotting events are extremely rare. 6 cases out of more than 7 million vaccinations. And so the CDC and the FDA are going to come out with recommendations as to how they might move forward with the J&J vaccine within the next few days, whether there'll be some alert about the vaccine or recommendation about the vaccine relative to certain populations.
And can you talk a little bit about booster shots? What are they? When would we need them? How do they work?
Well, so let me just back up here a little bit and talk about the immune response that you get from your initial vaccine. So with both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, it's a 2-dose shot. And so really your second dose is like a booster. And with any vaccine, there is, a period of time that it takes for your immune system to develop a response. So we all know that when you get your first shot of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine, you're not immediately immune. And so there's a time period, if I could use kind of an imaginary line here, where your immune response is low, but then over time you build up an immune response, takes a couple weeks, and then you get a booster shot, your second shot of those vaccines, and your immune response even drives higher. Now, with all vaccines, there is usually some waning or decrease in the immune response over time. So you're at this peak, but over time, your immune response can decrease. How rapidly it decreases, we're not exactly sure. We know at the moment that in 6 months, the immune response for both of these vaccines is still strong. We're not sure whether in a year or so we might need a booster to sort of just push that line back up in terms of your immune response. The other thing to consider with the boosters is we know that there are variants that have developed in the population. And so if a booster is required, those boosters can be modified to offer additional protection against those variants. So the booster can do two things. It can stimulate your initial immune response, but it could also help you to protect against any variants that have developed.
And we've been hearing a lot about variants. Can you talk about what a virus variant is and the level of protection that we have from them with the existing vaccines?
Yes, so with any virus, as it replicates, so the COVID-19 virus, as it replicates, it mutates or it changes. And that happens with all viruses, not just the coronavirus. And so as it is replicating in individuals, it can occasionally make mistakes in that replication process, altering proteins in the virus, and particularly we're interested in alterations in the spike protein, because it's the spike protein that binds to cells, and it's the spike protein to which we want to make antibodies, which would bind to the spike protein on a virus and block it from infecting cells. So as the virus replicates, it can make minor changes in the spike protein, which could alter its binding ability, but could also alter the ability of our antibodies or our immune system to respond to the spike protein. It turns out that the UK variant, the B117 variant, we've heard about that. That was an alteration in just a single amino acid in the spike protein that allowed that virus to bind more tightly to cells, and that is why it is considered to be more contagious. Now, at the moment, it appears like our current vaccines are protective against the variants, but as time goes on and if additional variants develop, that's why the vaccine may need to be modified to protect against those other variants and other changes.
The last question we have is about folks that are fully vaccinated. Why do they need to continue to get tested?
So once someone is vaccinated, we know that they will get an immune response of some sort, but we don't exactly know the level of that immunity. Turns out that most people get very good immunity from that, but there still is the possibility that somebody who's been vaccinated could still be carrying the virus, could have a little bit of virus replication, and could potentially pass that on to another individual. So it's important that we keep track of that, as well as trying to keep track if any developments, any variants develop in people that have been vaccinated.
Thank you for all of that great information, Dr. Frana, and thank you for all the work that you've done over the course of this pandemic to help keep our campus community safe.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to remind everyone, get vaccinated if you have the opportunity. The benefits of vaccination are much, much greater than any of the risks that might be associated with vaccines. And I would also remind you that as the virus continues to replicate, it's going to create variants. But if we can stop that replication by getting vaccinations, we're also going to decrease the number of possible variants that develop as well.
Thank you again, Dr. Frana.
You're welcome.
There are only 2 weeks of classes remaining this semester, and commencement is right around the corner. We look forward to a strong finish to the academic year. President Wight will be here for our next briefing on Thursday, April 29th, and we're also excited to announce that Dr. Jay Perman will be here, the Chancellor of the University System of Maryland. So please join both Drs. Wight and Perman next week and submit your questions ahead of time to stay informed at salisbury.edu. Until then, please stay safe.